Hi, this is Vernell with Christ Presence Restored, and I'm going to do just a quick video, hopefully. And I am reading from Mark 12:31, and Jesus is speaking. It's in red, and it says, "The second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." There is 108 different verses on love. 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8, we hear that a lot from weddings. That it talks about how love beareth all things. I have been taught a lesson and I question what's going on now in this world. I have two loved ones who are currently in the hospital. My father, who is in his 90s, he had emergency surgery about 5 days ago. And my sister, Margie, who has been in the hospital since July 4th with COVID 19. And I had missed talking to her, speaking to her for a couple of days. And sometimes we go a couple of days and not speak to each other. And then we go days to where we talk to each other 2 and 3 times in one day. So as I'm trying to figure out where she is or just giving each other a break, finally I have this urgency to know where my sister is. So I call and I don't get an answer, and she finally calls me a couple of days later and she tells me that she's in the hospital. So me, I'm like, okay, I know that I cannot go to the hospital. I know that they're not going to allow me to see her. I know that there is nothing that I can currently do to see her or my dad. So, of course, I go to work. In between working, I'm on my face and I'm pleading and I'm bargaining and I'm crying out to God that His will be done and not my will be done. But somewhere in the midst of that, I got just a little upset. And this is why. I love my sister. I love my father. Why is it that my choice has been taken away from me and said that I can't come and visit them to be with them when they are sick, when they are shut in? When did I relinquish that way of how God tells us that we are to visit the sick as well as pray for them? We're to visit those who are in prison. And even in prison, they allow you to visit. So I'm like thinking, if I want to go and see my loved one, even with me understanding the risk of what that means, let me sign a piece of paper and say that if I take this risk and I catch whatever they have, you have permission not to take care of me, to not service me, to not spend my insurance money that I paid for or the taxpayers' money to bring me back to health, because I have chosen to put my love that I have for my dad and my sister to be able to be with them when they need me, to sit beside them, to hold their hands. You know, I've said before that we were grieving because these things have been taken away. Who? How? I mean, who? I've tried to do this video I don't know how many times. And I always get to this point. I do not feel comfortable with me not being able to sit beside a loved one and hold their hands. And believe me, I know that God is there. I never doubt that. I know that He is. But now, since He's changed a love that's in me, it says that there's no greater love that you can have than to lay down your life for someone else. My right of being able to lay down my right to sit beside my father's bedside or my sister's bedside and not know that this might be the last time that I may be able to hold their hands while they're alive, to kiss them, to tell them in person how I feel about them, to love. And I have done this. I have ran away from love because love hurt. And it says love is supposed to be painful. And that's true, it's not. But when you go through certain things in life, when people, as I've said before, when they promise that they're going to be with you, that they will ride and die, that they got your back, and that they fail. And it's unfortunate, but we all make promises that we can't keep. And then that's when forgiveness comes in. Because if we believe the best in people, they're not always able to keep the promises. You know, the enemy comes at all of us. But the one thing that we have some control over is how we choose to react. And as I choose to react and run towards love instead of away from it, because in the past, I would have ran away. I would have just went ahead and cast them out of my thoughts and just went on about my business. And I know that sounds horrible, but I was a horrible person. And Jesus shows me every day how He's changed me, how He's making me more into His likeness and His image, and how I'm starting to have the mind of Christ. And believe me, y'all, some of y'all know, I still don't make it. I still do the wrong things. But if I choose to lay down my life, God says that I can. He says there's no greater love than to feel this way. But now the world tells me that I can't. That I can't do that. I'm praying. I'm praying because I know that many of our rights are being taken away, as this right has been taken away from me. And I'm not the first. But you know what? You understand something a little bit better when it hits home, when it's in your backyard, when you are experiencing it firsthand. So you can empathize with people, but until you have gone through something similar, you never quite understand the impact that it has on you, on those people, on myself, mentally and physically. And I thank God so much that I had people praying for me, people who were concerned, people who were still okay in those times to when I needed to cry, when I said I didn't understand. And even when my faith wavered, they didn't judge me. They accepted me and where I was. And that's what Jesus does. He accepts us where we are. He knows the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it still does not stop Him. It did not stop Him from laying down His life for my sins, for your sins. So there's going to be still so much that will cause us to make our faith waver, to make us try and doubt that Jesus Christ and God is not working every situation around for our good. My father, who was in ICU, is doing well. The prayers of the righteous availeth much. My sister, she's not been on a ventilator. She is breathing better every day. God works. Prayers works. But the one thing that I continuously have to remind myself, it was his grace and mercy that either one of them are still here. It's his love towards me that they are still here. And I want it to be made clear that even if God decided to take both of them home, he says that there's nothing, he will never give us more than we can bear. And that I have to believe that he loved them so much that he wanted to now be with them. And I am still here because there's still work to be done. There's so much work to be done. We are laborers. We have been called. He says, many are called and few are chosen. We all have a call on our life, especially when we know who we are in Jesus Christ. So I thank you for listening to me. I thank you for allowing me to be transparent. I thank you for all those who are still praying for me. And I always hope that this has touched you in a way that this is helping your relationship with Jesus Christ get to a better place. Because Romans 12 is where I choose to be always, the renewing of my mind, not to conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of my mind, so that I will know what the acceptable and perfect will of Jesus Christ is. I don't want to be in his permissible will. I want to be in his perfect will. And in his perfect will, things might not work out the way that I want them to. But once again, he's a good daddy God, and he loves us so much. So be blessed, and please continue to be in the vein of Jesus Christ. And if he is for us, who can be against us? If Jesus is interceding for us, who else can intercede better than Jesus Christ? Thank you for prayers. Thank you for being an intercessor. Thank you for all the prayers, words of encouragement. Thank you so much. Be blessed, and please, if any of this is where you are, reach out. And I have an email address, christpresencerestored@gmail.com. My daughter is doing a Facebook page, Christ Presence Restored, for me, and we will do Instagram as well as the phone number for prayer.